Chris, I remember the first blush of purple belts that left 13th Avenue
Right.
School. And what people were saying to me was that, and I had mentioned this the other day, like, you're a fraud because you don't let us wear different colored uniforms.
Oh, that's what the problem was.
and that we don't do the gauntlet. Do you know what the gauntlet is?
No.
The
What is-
gauntlet is where when you get your belt,
Uh-huh.
you get whipped by your classmates, but with their belt.
Right.
And that's your rite of passage.
Okay.
And I thought it was insane. And the other complaint was you do a warm-up. We don't want to do a warm-up.
Right.
And that first blush of people, like, I think 25 people left
Yeah.
the academy. And like, you've been through all of those waves.
Right.
All of them. Like,
Yeah.
you just knew.
Yeah. I know people. I've seen all the people leave, and like when I first got there as a white belt, that's when it happened. It was the blue belt and the purple
that
belt.
first wave
leaving.
of dissension.
And I guess that's what the complaints were.
That's what their complaint was.
Right. I mean, you want to get whipped. That's you're like, oh, you don't let each other whip us. Like what? Like that doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I guess they want tradition. I don't know. I don't know if that's a thing. Like,
you know what's interesting, and I was saying this to Kim on the last podcast, is that like we were 15 or 20 years ahead of our time.
Right.
That a lot of people in jiu-jitsu culture now, a lot of schools, you have to wear a uniform.
Right.
It's the school uniform. You have to wear a school rash guard.
Yeah.
You have to behave a certain way.
Which makes sense. No, I mean,
but
that's the stuff that I enjoyed. Like I didn't care about like, oh, I don't need like a camo gi. Why do I don't want to wear a camouflage gi. It doesn't matter to me. Blue, white, whatever anybody wants to do. Like it's the other way it is. It's your school. So you're the person who makes the rules. Right. And I don't I guess people like kind of think it's a bad thing. Like, oh, you follow the rules, you get in line. Like that's not like a bad thing. I don't think that's like to be able to stand there and follow someone's instructions and their rules. I don't think it's a bad thing to do that.
Yeah.
Some people don't like that. They're like, nah, I don't follow the rules. Like, I don't need to do that stuff. I'm here and I'm going to do things my way. I'm like, but why would you do that? You're here to learn something from somebody who's been doing it a long time, and you're upset that you can't wear a different color gi. That was the problem.
There was a guy who trained with us. His name is Alex Eklund. He went on to be the world champion.
Right.
And, he has his own school. Great guy, wonderful guy, very good jiu-jitsu. And, he'll say, he's posted quotes from me on his page. And like he'll say, my first jiu-jitsu instructor used to say, like, this isn't Burger King. You can't have it your way.
Yeah.
And like, it seems so weird to me that like someone would put themselves in the role of a student, but then not learn, not be a student.
Yeah.
It just seems bizarre to me now.
Yeah.
But I guess people do that. They have to, I don't know what, buck. They have to like revolt. Something.
Yeah. I guess that's like the culture nowadays. That's how it is, It's like, because you said it goes back generations. It's a generational thing, the training, right? So it goes back all these generations. But people are not acting the same way they were 100 years ago now. So I guess it's kind of expected a little bit, which is sad because now you're expecting people to be like that.
Well, I certainly try. And, I've been thinking about how can I do a better job of communicating this stuff and like getting or asking people to consider the value, because I believe you're a prime example of the methodology. You're, other than what you said, not catastrophic injuries in 15 years, you're intact, you have a good practice, you have a good relationship with your school,
Yeah.
with your classmates, with your teacher, and you're brilliant at jiu-jitsu. And so it works.
Yeah.
Like and you're still on the path.
Yeah.
You didn't stop. You didn't like you have your life, you have more than one job, or
Yeah.
you have jobs,
Yeah.
or like you're at your life, and this thing still is serving you.
Yeah.
And that was the whole point.
That's the whole point of
The
it. You
whole
could only
point.
reach the people that want to be reached. And like you have to put in the work to want to be there. So it's like I don't want to say it was easy for me, but it wasn't hard to do that,
Right.
Because when you first started training and the things that we were learning and the way that the classes were going, it just kind of it spoke to me. And it's like this is what I wanted. I'm like this is where I want to be. Like I didn't want to go say like, "Oh yeah, this school's cool. Let me go try another one. Oh,
Right.
let me go do another one." It's like, "No, this is where it's at. Like
Right.
I enjoy being here and I want to continue the journey here, I don't want to mess it up for myself, Kind of like I was being selfish. I'm like, I don't want to mess this up for
Yeah.
me. Like I want to stay here. Like I want all this. So that's what I did.
Yeah, I think about that with Mr. Vizio. I think about that with Max Ginsburg.
Yeah.
Like, don't in at the risk of being repetitive, don't get at odds with them.
Right.
Keep the relationship good. And I selfishly, I wanted you on the podcast so that people could see inside of this mentality,
Right.
because I I think it's the right way.
Yeah.
It is the right
Well, I
way.
take the student teacher relationship seriously. It's like I'm not very serious throughout my life. Everything's like I like joking around and everything, but like the student teacher relationship and the training, this is like the stuff that I take seriously. So I don't even feel comfortable calling you Gene. Like, yeah, you're Shihan. Like, I'm not gonna.
Thank you.
I don't even
Thank
like
you,
calling
Chris.
you Gene. I don't even like saying it. It
Thank
feels
you.
weird. It's like, oh
Yeah.
no. It's like when you see your teacher outside of school, you're like, it's weird. Like,
Yeah.
like you. That's how it is. So I take that part very seriously. So if you're gonna do something, if you want to change the geese to a different color, then that's the way it is, And I'm happy you did it. Like that's how I feel. So I always taken that part seriously.
Chris, like, what do you think about, like, what's on the horizon for you? Just kind of, you just keep training? Like, what is it that you're looking forward to? What is it that,
You
like,
know,
what's in your eye, your
right.
mind's eye, really?
That's a rough one because I'm kind of like I don't, and this is like a fault of mine. I don't really see so far ahead and really like make plans to plan things out. I'm kind of like it's I like where I am, right? And I like the training and I don't want to leave, but I don't have like a plan. Like my plan is just to train. So I don't know if that's like a good thing or a bad thing because it's like, oh yeah, you reach black belt, that's the goal, right? Okay, so that's the goal. So you should have another goal. But I'm like my goal is just to train every day and to be here and to be here as much as I can.
Uh-huh.
That's more of a
So you don't, like, I know in the training, like, you had come to me a little while ago and was like, I want to be able to deal with this ashigarami. I want to
right.
deal with,
Oh,
so, like, does that play into, do you think about, like, oh, I want
I
to
think about
master this
I
part
think
of the
about working on things
practice?
all the time.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Like if I'm at the gym and maybe like I'm running on a treadmill, I'm not even paying attention to what I'm doing because in my mind, I'm just going through like jujitsu techniques.
Uh-huh.
Like I'm like sometimes I'll be lost. Like I'm running and I'll just be thinking about like a roll and training. And then I'll look down and like 20 minutes has passed on the treadmill. I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm like, all right, I gotta get off this thing.
And so, like, what are some of the things that you think about in terms of, like, where you want to go next in your practice? Like, when you're thinking about the training, thinking about the interactions, thinking about what you could and what's on the horizon there for you? Like, do you want to work on your guard more? Do you want to work on,
Right.
yeah,
Okay. So it's kind of like how I'm feeling, I guess. So definitely right now, the legs is where it's at. That's like I feel like I'm like struggling with protecting my legs. I feel like they're so vulnerable, and I'm always getting caught in an ashigurami, and I'm trying to understand why.
Right.
Right. So I mean, that's the thing
That's the current
that's
problem to
right now
solve.
is the current problem
Uh-huh.
is protecting my legs and protecting against leg locks and ankle locks and everything like that.
Uh-huh.
That's what I'm trying to work on right now. And then the other thing I talked to you about was the kind of like mental aspect of the like when someone is bigger than you and they're on top and you feel like you're being smothered. And at first, when I started training, that was a problem. Like the panic attack of
Yeah,
someone big on
yeah.
top of you, all claustrophobic, I can't breathe, sort of thing. But then I got over it. And then for years, it was fine, fine, fine. And then one day, something just happened where I was in a weird position and it just kicked back in. And I was like, oh my God, I can't breathe. I'm freaking out. And like, had to, I'm like, I tapped out. I'm like, oh, stop, stop, stop. You all right? And I'm like, yeah, I was just freaking out.
Was it you and I training?
No. Yeah. Who was it? I think it was Eddie Bustamante.
Uh-huh.
He had me, and like, just kind of stacked a little bit,
Yeah.
not even anything crazy.
Yeah.
And it just, something clicked.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, it's back. And I'm like, oh no, it's back. And it hasn't, it hasn't gone away. It's gotten a little bit better after our talk about like, oh,
What are
just,
we talking about?
you told me like someone's on top, just move an inch maybe, like move an inch and then, turn your head. Maybe you'll feel better or something like that.
Yeah.
That's what you said to me.
Yeah.
And it happened. And I'm like, let me move a little bit. And it kind of calmed me a little bit, right? Having the voice in my head and also doing the thing you told me to do. So I was like, okay, it's a little bit better, but I'm still kind of freaked out. Okay, but I'm surviving. I'm alive. I'm still alive. It's
Yes.
okay. And then, I'm like, okay, I can't stay here anymore. Like, you got to get off me. So that's the thing.
Chris, you're not the only one that said that to me.
Yeah.
And and I don't know if did we talk about that it happened to me too.
You told me you were talking about after COVID.
After
COVID, yeah.
And I'm wondering to myself if something in that whole process is in our psyche.
Right.
That got like now that I'm sitting here talking to you and listening to you, I wonder if it's something because another black belt had told me the same thing.
Right.
And I was feeling it so acutely, man.
Right.
Like I remember feeling claustrophobic once when I was being strangled by like a 15-year-old kid
Right.
on my 4th jiu-jitsu lesson. And I got really like, I never had that feeling before, but it was there for sure.
Right.
And then like you, it went away. And then, a couple of years back, it came on, but it came on really strong, Chris. Very like panic attack strong.
And you think COVID had something?
Only now am I thinking about it. I thought, I was out of shape. I thought, like, I don't know if you remember, but like for a little while, I'd have to get up and go to the door and take a breath.
Right.
And I thought there was something going on for me. And there was, like, my brother passed. A lot of things were going on in this, like, period. But, I don't think I've ever said this, like, but there was a time right after COVID that I didn't sleep for a year.
Wow.
Like, I would wake up, I would go to sleep, I would wake up gasping for air and have to go outside and walk. Like in the frigid cold, it was every single night for a year, and it was that feeling I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
And I just wondered to myself if there was like something about the social consciousness, something that we adopted in that whole process. What we had,
there was a lot of fear going on. There was a lot of fear, a lot of like even you wear the mask at all times, so you're constantly covering up your face.
Yeah.
And it's hard to. It wasn't like the easiest thing to breathe in those things.
I didn't like it at all.
No, I didn't like it at all.
So, what I said to the other black belt and what I did was I put myself in that position
Yeah.
over and over and over and over again till I could master it again.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is why I giggled when you said, "Oh, there it is again."
Yeah. Well, there it is.
There it is. Like,
Yeah.
I thought once I mastered it, it was gone.
Yeah. I thought the same thing too. I'm like, why am I feeling this way again? Yeah.
And I'll tell you, like, one of the things that I think about in terms of a mature practice is that at some point, because my body has changed, or at least it feels like it has, that I'm relearning a lot of the things.
Right.
It's why I put you, like, when we come into the class, I take you down to the end of the mat and I rep with you the moves that I'm going to teach, because my body, it's like I have to relearn jujitsu. My body is not responding in a way that I'm familiar with.
Right.
And I, like you, want to keep going and
Yeah.
want to, like, I want to have the technical prowess.
Right. Well, that's something that's going to come up for me too, because I'm
Yes.
almost 40 now.
Yes.
I'm approaching 40. And it's crazy to say. It's a crazy thing to say. I'm approaching 40, and I know that eventually I'm gonna I already started having to change some things.
Right.
Like I not as quick as I used to be. That's for sure. So sometimes when I'm with certain people and they're younger and they're moving,
Lucas.
Lucas. That's exactly who I was talking about.
Yeah.
When we were training the other day, I was like, I can't keep up with him right now. I need to just put him on the ground and hold him there. And that was my plan for the
Yeah,
I'm like, I gotta get him
yeah.
to the ground and hold him there. He
Yeah.
can't be moving. He can't be on his feet. I gotta, so that's what's gonna end up happening to more and more.
And I think that's why I'm bringing it up,
Yeah.
because it offers a whole new dimension to the practice.
Yeah.
It's
a new phase. It's
constantly asking
because
more
now
from
it's new.
us.
Because it's not like, oh, I'm a black belt. I learned everything. I'm good. No, now there's a whole. You have to basically almost start over
That's
again.
the way I feel right
Yeah,
now. I'm
you're
starting over
starting over again. Every time you hit a certain, after 10 years, you have to start something new.
Kinda.
Yeah.
And I'm bringing it up because any of those of you who are paying attention,
Yeah.
that's what's ahead. So embrace it.
Yeah.
Embrace it. It's coming.
Yeah, in your 20s, you're running around. It's fine. You hit 30s, like, oh, I got to do this a little bit, slow down a little bit. 40, I'm sure it gets even slower and slower.
See, 40 for me, and I'm giggling because you're the age now where I was when you met me.
Right.
Like, I
Okay.
was your age when
Yeah.
you met me.
Yeah.
And like 40, I think, for guys in jiu-jitsu is a real problem. It was for me because I didn't want to accept that I was moving into a new phase with my body.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of accepting it and embracing it and moving inside of it with grace, I was pushing back.
Yeah, and that's when you get hurt.
I got all my major injuries in that pocket
and that's when you get
between
hurt. Yeah.
38 and 42, 43.
Yeah.
Everything that really, most of that stuff between 35 and 40.
Yeah. You could lie to yourself all day and like, I'm still young, I'm still young, still young, but
but you feel it. You do.
Yeah.
You feel like in your head.
You feel in your head.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
But sometimes that's too, like, in your head, you're like, oh, I could do this, that, and the other thing. But then, like, this has been happening to you too. You get on the mat and my body isn't doing the thing that my mind is telling it to do. And I'm like, what's going on with this?
Right.
I'm like, why is that happening?
Right.
And it's because you're getting older, and it's
Well, I would just say at this juncture that it presents a new opportunity for growth.
absolutely.
It doesn't have to be a bad thing.
No,
It
no,
really
it's
doesn't.
not.
You can move into this next phase with grace.
Yeah.
It doesn't, like, I think maturity is a privilege.
Yeah.
I think it's a blessing. I think that we can, it's why I love the Rolling Stones so much,
Right.
man, because they're now in their 80s
Mhm.
and they're still in a way relevant. They're still in a way doing good things and showing like you can do some things very gracefully.
Mhm.
And I think that that's like that's part of this practice if you are a lifetime practitioner.
Right. Yeah.
You know, you got to accept that.
You have
and
to
you got to work
accept it.
through it.
Yeah.
Danaher and I used to talk like, I used to say, John, like, how long do you think you could go? And he said, I think I could probably, you know, he brought up the Japanese. He brought up some Japanese judoka. And he said, I probably can do it till I'm 60. You know, like, and then after that, it's probably a done deal.
Mm.
But he's approaching 60.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to surpass that idea.
Yeah.
I think he's, you know, we go as far as we can see. And when we get there, we see further.
Right.
Like he'll just figure it out. I'll just figure it out.
You just figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And try to, you know.
Because I'm sure at that time 60 was probably a far off number.
When I had the conversation, we were probably in our late 30s.
Yeah, so 60 was far off.
Seemed like it.
And now you're 60, you're like, oh, I keep going.
I'm not 60 yet, but I'm, you know, like, and not that it, like, this is why I'm saying it presents itself as a new opportunity. Like, I don't want to get hung up on age exactly.
Yeah.
Because I think it's changing. I think that the consciousness around things of age are changing. And I'm part of the generation that's doing that. I want to be part of the generation that's doing that. And so that's why I'm choosing to say, like, it's just new opportunities.
Yeah.
It just presents a new opportunity for growth.
Yeah, it's a new challenge. It's
new
a new
challenge.
challenge. Yeah,
new challenge.
Absolutely.
And to get through that challenge safely.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what you do in the next 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested too. Like, because right now I feel like I could just like, oh no, I'm still the same as I was when I first started, you know? But now I'm starting to slowly realize, like, okay, I need to do something different.
Make
like,
those adjustments.
I need to make adjustments, you know? And I need to start doing them now because even though you feel good, right? I feel good, but eventually you're not going to be able to do the same things that you've been doing. So you have to be ready for that. So you start adjusting now. Right. Even though you're still in your prime, but you still should know that it's coming, and you just make a little adjustment. And it's not a bad thing. It's not like, ooh, it's coming. You know, it's like it's coming, and I'm glad it's coming. Good.
That's right.
You should be happy.
The big question is like, why would you want to stay doing the same thing?
Yeah.
You know, like Kim and I were talking about this at the last podcast. Like, you know, if you're 50. And you're still behaving the way you were when you were 25,
right?
You missed something.
Yeah.
Something's off. Something's really wrong.
Yeah.
Like you're supposed to grow. You're supposed to look for the new challenges and the change and embrace them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean you're a different person. You're still the same person, but you just like a little bit different. Like you just grow. You mature.
It's growth.
You know, like I went to a wedding last night. I seen friends I haven't seen in years, and there's one person who's still exactly the same way he was when we were 15. He's still the same way. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this guy hasn't changed a bit. They're like, no, not at all.
Well, maybe that guy can use some jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. I tried to get him in one time. I was like this close to getting him, you know?
He just wanted to say the same.
Yeah, he's like, nah. I can't.
I can't. It'd be too radical.
Yeah. Too much. It'd be too much of a change for him. There's no way. But I tried.
Well, thank you, Chris. Chris, I just want to say publicly, like, thank you so much, man. You're one of the, like, the people make the difference, but then there are people that are really making a difference for me, and you've been one of them,
right? And
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I really like. I appreciate you saying that. You know, like it's nice. It's nice to hear that, and it's just hard. It's hard for me to accept a compliment, so I don't know what to say. Right?
Well, just say let me
Thank
help you. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome, buddy. Well. Thank you, man. You've been an amazing guest, and we really appreciate you.
Right.
Love you, Chris.
Love you too. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Gentle Art Podcast. Please share, rate, and review. And if you have any questions or you'd like to reach out, please contact us at the GentleArtPodcast@gmail.com or contact us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter or thegentleartpodcast.com.